Cedric Maxwell Podcast
is brought to you by Prize Picks and the Game Time app.
Maxwell's Podcast. I have the great Bernard King. I cannot believe I have him up here. This was an enemy back in the day. And, first of all, I know you're gloating right now with the Knicks winning last night. So go ahead and get it out. Get it out.
Absolutely. We came to your house and we beat the great reigning champions, Boston Celtics. Yeah.
I'm like, how did that happen? I said, of all days, and I'm speaking to Bernard King, I got him, and we're going to go over this whole thing about. So, you know what? Let's be analysts here. What happened in that game and on the side that you saw from? Because you're a pro. You've seen this. What do you see?
Well, actually, the day before the game, I did an interview with the New York Post here. And I pointed out that I thought the Knicks had a great opportunity to win game one. And the reasoning for that, you guys had been off for a period of time after beating Orlando. And when you're out for a period of time in a playoff series, you can come out rusty. Now, you got off to a great start in the first half. Cat got into foul trouble. You guys were getting out on the break and getting a lot of points in transition. But I thought that in the second half, the rush showed up. You're a great three-point shooting team, and you've been all year, the very best, actually. And the rush showed up, and you couldn't make a three-point shot.
I didn't know why the Celtics didn't go on the inside instead of attacking. Here's the problem I had with that game. Cat had 4 fouls.
Yes, he did.
He ended up with 5 fouls.
3 fouls in the second half.
Yeah, and he could get 3 fouls on Brunson. Brunson ended up with 3 fouls for the whole game. So not to attack the paint, I think that was the Celtics' problem in that game.
Well, that was certainly a large part of the problem. We did not benefit from having Cat on the bench, obviously. He's a very integral part of our offense, hitting 3-point shots and posting up. But I thought that we had great contributions. I knew we had to have a strong performance from OG, but you guys missed 19 out of 20 3-point shots in the third quarter alone. And you made no adjustments to that. And so that really was suitable to us, Max.
One of the things I thought that I hated Laker fans, but Knicks fans are more obnoxious than Laker fans. I was like, how do you come to somebody's house and all of a sudden you start blowing out the candles on their birthday cake? How do you do that?
Well, everyone in New York, myself included, the Celtics have such a great history and the legacy of championships, and the Knicks has a tremendous legacy as well. Obviously not as many championships, but it's always been a rivalry, whether it's in the 80s or the 70s or today. It's a rivalry, and it's really exciting to watch, each of these teams play.
Well, I'm going to move back and talk to you about something that you probably didn't know.
What's that?
You might have known, but did you know that when I was at UNC Charlotte, we ended up playing your Tennessee team?
No, I was unaware of that.
Yeah, you were out for a game. Was that my junior year? Because we played it was the Ernie and Bernie show, and we came. There was a young man played the center for you. His name was Reggie. But
that's right.
You missed that particular game. We came to your building, almost beat you in that building.
Well, they didn't need me then, apparently. I was averaging 26 points a game, so they didn't need my production.
Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about the 80s because everybody wants to hear what happened to the 80s and the games that we played against each other. You called me up the other day, and you just came out the blue, and I was like, "Who is this?" It said, "The B ain't gonna score 40 on me." I was like, "Oh, this is Bernard King," and then you said, "No, this is Bron." I said, "I know this is Bernard King," but you know what? I'm gonna put the story down. This is what happened. Bernard King had been going absolutely crazy against Detroit. He was averaging damn near 50 points a game in the series before he played the Celtics. So Bernard they had won, and we were playing the next series. And so reporter comes up to me and he goes, and I'm a competitor. He goes, what are you going to do about Bernard King scoring 40 on you? And I'm like, bitch ain't scoring 40 on me. I say, and then it was on and popping then. And my coach came to me before the game. He's like, oh my God, I can't believe you said that. I can't believe you said that about Bernard King. I said, man, if you're afraid, get a dog. Now, to our fan base, this is what happened. We go out in the first game, and Bernard King shakes hands with all the players on my team. And then it gets to me, and I extend my hand out, and he looked like I got shit on my hands. I'm like, dude, it's like, and then he just looked at me and then just turned his head, and I was like, well, I guess it's gonna be on. And so now you can start telling me some of this story.
Well, coming out of that Detroit series, I'm playing with 2 dislocated fingers. Coming in that series, throughout this series, I averaged 42 points a game during that series. But when we land in Boston, I always had a habit of picking up the local paper, to see what's going on in the community in the city. And on the back page of the newspaper, in bold letters, the BITCH is not going to get 40 on us. I said, whoa, now this is a greeting. And you made that comment, and so I wasn't going to shake your hand, period.
Wow.
Period. I was ready to play. I didn't say a word, and I was going to let our team and my actions speak loudly and clearly.
And it really did. I mean, the way you played, but I tell people all the time, the first 2 games in Boston, we held you down. I think you had 23 and then maybe 26.
First 25, second game, you held me down and scored 13 points. Now, let me share.
And then in that, and then we go to New York.
Hold on. I want to share this with everyone. All right. Now, in the Detroit series, I was being defended by 5 different guys. And so I made my adjustments to each guy and had a way I would take my shots. Now, with you guys, this is what you did. I did. And this was really serious. I learned this is now playoff basketball. The Detroit series was something different. I go to take a shot, and I get fouled not by just you, not just by Mikal, but also Parrish, all on one play. And the ref, the official, Max, he can only call 1 foul. I said, wow. So this is where the game is going to be played. I scored 13 points. I'm upset. We lose. Obviously, now we're down 0-2. Not many teams come back from 0-2. But let me tell you something that you don't know, Max. No one knows publicly. You defended me in that second game with a defense is the only defense that I never want to see. I'm prepared for any defense, but it's the only defense that I never wanted to see. You would circle me in the low post and not allow me to make contact. I need contact to shield myself and to get to the space I wanted to get the pass I'd like. And you circled me, and that befuddled my guard, and I couldn't get the ball. So you know what I did, Max?
What's that, brother?
You know the name Pete, the legendary Pete Newell?
Yep.
I called Pete Newell. Yes, I didn't go to Hubie Brown. Yes, I didn't want him to think that I lost confidence, and I didn't want him to think that I didn't have confidence in him. So I called Pete Newell, and I said, Pete, I'm seeing the only defense I can't figure out. Help me. He said,
so you cheated.
It's not cheating. I was in Pete Newell's camp for several years. Okay, he was very helpful to me as a player. And so he said, take your guard in practice and tell your guard when Maxwell circles you, allow him to circle. When he comes across the top and he goes to the bottom, that's when you make the pass. And that's what we practice on, when we return back to New Jersey. And then the third game, I came out opening up with jump shots to give me that spacing to get to the basket.
Man, that was one of the worst days that I can remember. But I wasn't really, when you start going crazy, I'm thinking like, damn, these dudes don't know no more plays. Y'all ain't remember one play. It was whatever this is, power or something. I told Hubie Brown about it. It's like, Hubie, I'm like, damn, man, do y'all run anybody else want to be involved in this game? But, they kept going to you and you kept scoring. And all I remember, I was getting madder and madder and madder. And then I thought the story was, after the game, Bernard King scores. What'd you score? Because you told me last time, 40 what?
44.
Okay, 44. So, by the way, he scored 44. And then the reporter comes down and he brings me a stat sheet. And you said this wasn't true because I talked to you about it. But the reporter came down, he brings me a stat sheet and he goes, Bernard King told me to give this to you. And you have 44 points. I was livid. I was down there. I was fuming down there. And I was like, but you said that didn't happen, right? Or
no,
did it?
I was totally unaware that ever occurred.
Well, a reporter came down. New York paper came down and said, Bernard King told me maybe they would just goad me up even more. Bernard King told me to come down and give you the stat sheet. And I was fuming. I'm down there with my partners. We're talking about it. So we're gonna get this asshole tomorrow. We're gonna get his ass tomorrow. We're gonna get him the next game we play. The next game, you score more, right? Would you go 46? I was like, we could not, and we were trying everything, trying to stop you. And it just got worse and worse. And you scored another 40 plus. So we come back 2-2.
Well, at that point, Max, in my career, I had come out an All-Star game that year.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came out an All-Star game, I realized that I'm as good as anyone in this league. And we entered the season, second half of the season, and I wound up scoring back-to-back 50 on Friday and Saturday night. And after those two games, I decided that I'm the damn best player in this league. That's what I decided. Ooh. When confidence meets talent, confidence meets not arrogance, confidence meets talent. You believe in yourself. And I took my game to a whole nother level. I had mastered what I call mastered the art of scoring. And at that point, no one was going to stop me.
It was crazy to me. I remember you had those back-to-back 50s, and we were reading it in the paper. Now I'm like, damn. 50 again? I mean, it was Golden State one game, right?
It was actually the first game was San Antonio with George Gervin and those guys. Great team out west. And the second game was Mark Aguirre and that great team, the Dallas Mavericks. Wow. Two of the top three teams out west, and we won both games.
I just remember reading about that, and we always just looked at each other. But everybody looked at me because here was the problem that you always talked about. You said, well, let me tell you why I was mad, because Larry Bird never guarded me, but I had to guard Larry Bird. Maxwell was the sacrificial lamb, but I wanted Larry to guard me one time. And I remember one time he was on you and was telling me to switch. I'm like, no, you got him. You take him this time.
Well, Bird, I couldn't defend Bird at all. Obviously we're matched up. You're guarding me, and then I got to find Birds on the floor to switch over and defend him. And Bird was the toughest player I've ever had to face. The guy is 6'10", I'm 6'7". He can pass over the top of me, put the ball on the floor. He's a great rebounder and obviously a great scorer. And so Bird, for me, was the toughest matchup I ever had during the course of my career.
I think of those guys, but I remember guys talking about you, though. One guy in particular was Dominique Wilkins. Dominique Wilkins, I just saw an article where Dominique said, I had to guard Bernard King and I couldn't sleep. I had a sleepless night. And we talk about certain guys, myself, Kevin McHale, and Robert Parrish. We talked about guys who were the toughest guys to guard. Your name and somebody that people won't talk about, Mike Mitchell, the great forward from San Antonio with Cleveland. He used to give me and Kevin the blues along with you. Kevin, you were just too quick for Kevin. So Kevin never wanted to be in your range. Larry, you were too fast for him. So I was a guy that was supposed to get on you and slow you down. And I just remember just having those nights where, that particular series, I don't think I was ever happier to send somebody home than to send you home. And this I was. Fifth game, we came back and won in Boston. We go back. We think we're going to close the Knicks out in the sixth game. Oh, no, my
At home in
yeah.
with Power Millions. You think you're going to close us out? No, that's not going to happen.
Well, that's what that was our mindset that we were going to close you out. And then you told me something. We talked the other day. You said, Max, you said one of the things that haunts me maybe more than anything else was my 7th game performance against the Celtics in Boston. Why did that happen, and why did you feel that way?
Well, my responsibility as captain of the team and the best offensive player on the team was to deliver points. That was my job, and I did that very effectively. And so now I'm in the biggest game of my life, in the 7th game of a playoff series against the Boston Celtics, one of the greatest teams that there is, going up against a great forward in yourself. And by the way, you should be in the Hall of Fame. I'll tell you that right now.
Thank you, my brother.
I'm endorsing that. And Larry, he had one of the greatest games that you could possibly see for in the 7th game. And I did not play at that level. And that's something that haunts me, I think about for the rest of my life. It's that simple. I didn't deliver the way I wanted to deliver.
But you just had such a storied career. Remember in New Jersey, you started there, and then we get to New Jersey, get to New York, but then you got hurt. There was it the next year you tore your knee up?
Yeah, the next year, and and here's the interesting thing for me, at least. I finally supplanted Dr. J on the first team as an All-Pro. Okay. So it was Larry and myself on the first team. So, and the players in the league, probably not you, I have to say it, voted me most valuable player. The peers of the league voted me most valuable player, and Larry won the MVP, on the press side. But I think who knows better, the players or the press? I'll leave it at that. Yeah. And so going into that next season, I'm at the height, the pinnacle of the game at 28 years old, and I'm leading the league in scoring. And we play in Kansas City, Max, and I'll never forget it. I see it right now. I'm chasing Reggie Theus down on a fast break. It's the losing season. We lost Truck Robinson at the beginning of the season. He didn't play all year. We lost Billy Cartwright. He did play all year as well. We lost our backup center, Marvin Webster. So this is a team that faced you in the 7th game. And so we lost all of these guys. And so it was a losing season that was gone. And I'm chasing him. And I planned it much harder than I ordinarily would to try to block his shot. And as I planned it, my knee gave out. And you can, took me maybe a half a year later to watch that, but you can hear me audibly say, "Oh my God," as I'm in the air. I knew my career was over. While I'm in the air, if you can imagine that, Max, you're in the air and you know your career is over.
But to your credit, it wasn't over because you worked as hard as anybody. What did you actually do to your knee, though? What did you actually do?
I tore my anterior cruciate ligament, I tore a cartilage, and I broke a bone all at one time. And, I sat in my hotel room that night in Kansas City, and I had a friend that I grew up with and played high school ball with. He was there with me. But I didn't speak to him the entire night, and, I just cried. And get on the team bus in the morning, and we take us to the airport, let me out in my wheelchair, bus drives off, and Max, I knew that was the last time I would ever be on the team bus.
Damn.
And so I get on the plane, and I'm from Brooklyn. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, in the projects, and I grew up in a very tough community where you had to defend yourself all the time. And I thought to myself, if I can make it from there all the way to here, I can handle this.
Wow.
And the first thing I did when I entered the hospital, I called my attorney. I said, find the best orthopedic doctors in the nation and tell them who's involved and ask them if they would consider flying to New York to examine me. In the meantime, I asked for medical journals because I didn't know what I was dealing with. I read the medical journals. I got a tape recorder. I wrote down my questions. The doctors, individually, they arrived. And 3 doctors told me, you'll never play again. You need surgery just to walk properly again, but your career is over. And it came down to 2 doctors, And I went to sleep that night, put my tape recorder aside, and I thought, what was important to me? My heart's going to bring me back. My heart's going to bring me back. I'm not worried about coming back. I want to be an all-star and all-pro again. That's what I want. Now, mind you, I learned that no one had ever returned from that injury successfully.
Absolutely.
So I asked two doctors. I said, do you believe your technique will allow me to become an all-star and all-pro again? One doctor said, oh, no, I can't tell you that. I can't tell you that. And the other doctor said, I believe my technique will give you the best chance to do that. I said, you got the job.
Wow.
I had surgery, 41 metal staples running down my knee.
Ooh.
41 metal staples that reconstructed my entire knee. Hospital 21 days. I'll finish up on this, but I went home and I woke up in the morning, and for the briefest moment, I had doubt, and that doubt would fit right between here, just for a brief moment. You know what happened? What do you think happened, Max?
You just erased it, went to the bathroom and peed it away. That was it.
I couldn't move. Two ducks landing in my backyard. Never had ducks before.
Wow.
And I'm laying there in the hospital bed, and I had asked the Knick management, I said, I want you to do two things. Put all the equipment in my home, send a physical therapist to my home every single day, and I guarantee you I'll be back. They probably thought I was crazy because they knew the same information from the doctors that I knew. And so I watched these two ducks, they waddling across the grass, and they waddled up to my terrace glass door and started pecking at the glass. And I thought, wow, everyone that knows me knows I love nature. Love it. Yeah. It's like, oh, please bring some bread. And I slowly, probably took 20 minutes to get into my wheelchair. And I rolled myself out to the terrace door, opened the door, and you know ducks, when they're startled, they fly off.
Yeah.
Right? They just backed up. And I just fed them bread contentedly and just sat there and watched them until my physical therapist arrived. She finally arrived, and we had to start the process of trying to make it back. Wow. Those ducks stayed there till dawn, and they lifted my spirit. And I thought that was the end of it. No, Max. The next morning, they landed in my grass, waddling across the grass to my
free food.
Knock, Bernard, come out.
Wow.
Get in my wheelchair, and I repeat the process. They stay on my patio deck till dusk, and my therapist arrives, and we work, and then they fly off. They came back every single day for 3 months. For 3 months, I named them Aldo and Florence. Aldo and Florence, I named them, these melon ducks.
Wow.
Every day. And finally, the day I was able to get out of my wheelchair and attempt to walk for the first time, they never came back.
Wow. That's an amazing story, because what I remember about you the first one to do this, because we know in the NBA, they want to see you. I don't care if you're hurt, but they want to see you on that bench if they're paying you. I remember about this is Bernard King went home and said, I am training and I'll be back when I am well. And that's the first time I've ever heard of a player ever doing that. And it was kind of fascinating to see.
Well, you know why I did that? If every day someone tells you you're ugly, what are you going to believe ultimately? And I didn't want to be around anyone telling me, oh, it's so sad what happened to you. There's no chance you're going to play again. What a great career. And so I isolated myself. And here's what I did every day. 5 hours a day we worked. 5 hours a day, 6 days a week. And it was my game. For 5 hours every day I had a game. That's how I competed against myself, okay? But at the end of the 5 hours every single day, 6 days a week, I take this right hand and I pat myself on the back. Way to go today, Bernard. Way to go today, Bernard. And that's what I did every single day. And then I would close the door and forget about it until the next day.
I never knew that. And then after all this happened, I leave the Celtics, end up in Houston. And then finally, my last year, I come and you're at Washington.
Yeah, right.
First time that you and I ever spoke to each other. Like, I was like, and I was like, damn, he's not a bad dude.
Hold on, dude. No, you don't remember what happened initially, though, Max. I wouldn't speak to you. Now we're on the same team, but I still harbored resentment from what you did to me. But here's was the icebreaker. We all play cards together. And so once we all started playing cards together, I forgot everything. And
that's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. Now, okay, let's fast forward a little bit. Let's go back to this series that's happening right now.
Yes.
What happens in game 2? Are the Celtics a much better playing team in game 2, do you think? Or do you think the Knicks have the game plan now to possibly beat the Celtics again?
Well, Thibodeau is certainly going to provide the game plan. And all we have to do is go out and execute. But you know what happens when you give a team life and confidence. Okay? So I expect the team to play at an even higher level. Now, we shot over 50% for that ball game. You guys shot under 35. So you didn't shoot very well that game. But we know that you're not going to miss 43-point shots. As a team collectively, as you did in the second half. And so it's going to be far more competitive. And I think that what's really key, the fans are going to be in the game emotionally. And so we have to make sure we can control tempo in the first quarter and not allow you guys to get out there and transition with Tatum pulling up, hitting 3-point shots, and White getting into the lane. We have to make sure that we control Brown and play great defense and rebound the ball. In the first game, we gave up too many offensive rebounds. So we can't do that in the second game. And so it's going to be a totally different game. And game 1 is forgotten. That's over with. That's done. And I told people, I said, maybe it's the best thing to happen to the Celtics. Being up by 20 and going into the home run trot, thought that they had everything, and the Knicks kept winning. I'm going to tell you who really, I wouldn't say pisses me off, but I really admire how he plays. Who's that?
And it's Josh Hart. Josh Hart is he's a freaking beast. He is a dog.
Can you imagine?
How do you get a guy that small?
Yeah.
He can't be more than about, but he's getting 2 and 3 offensive rebounds at a time. I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah, he's like 6'4", 6'5". This game, he's gotten 18 rebounds. 18 rebounds in one game. And he's just a tenacious, tough guy. And he understands the game and knows how to play. But watching him in that first game, he's underneath the basket, snaring offensive rebounds.
Yes. I mean, the thing, I talk about the game and watching it, the way it happened was that the Knicks were kind of dead in the water, and then they started playing better. The third quarter, they started getting rebounds. They started getting second. And Anunoby started knocking down shots. They started defending. And the Celtics depended on the 3-point shot. No Porzingis, so no post play. And the Celtics strategy was really good in the first, even when they fouled Robinson. I thought that I almost felt sorry for that kid. Hacker Robinson. I mean, I've never seen a guy shoot free throws like he's throwing darts, man. I'm like, there's no form or nothing in the way he shoots them. But the Celtics strategy was so good. I was assuming that, you can come out in the third quarter, you're going to play or just kind of keep it even. But the way the Knicks got going, and the thing that pissed me off about the whole game was watching the Knicks fans get more excited every play. And at the end of the game, when they won, there was a luxury box there. And in the luxury box, everybody was gone, but a lot of people were in that luxury box.
Right.
You know what they started singing? New York, New York. I'm like,
I love it. I love it.
I'm like, you got to be freaking kidding me, man. It was just.
Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. And again, you can now win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks. Prize Picks invented Flex Play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money, even if one of your picks doesn't hit. So check it out. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this basketball season. Which players are going off, which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds. Pick more or less with Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game.
Now, in the game, I do want to ask you about the state of the game now.
Yeah.
And you're watching this game being played, and tell me what you think about. I'm gonna go down some players. Tell me about what you think about LeBron James.
One of the greatest players that's ever played the game. There's no question about it. His IQ is off the charts. I remember his rookie year when he won Rookie of the Year. The NBA asked myself and Dr. J to fly into New York to help celebrate that with him. And so I did that. And that was the first opportunity I had to meet him. And when I did, I said to him, it's amazing. You played the game like you've been in the game for 10 years. I said, where does that come from? He said, when I grew up, I was watching Oscar Robertson. He said, I was watching all the old great NBA players on tape, and I would take bits of their game and make it part of my game. He's just a phenomenal talent. I would love to have played against him, by the way.
Wow. Yeah, I'm sure you would. Steph Curry.
Steph Curry, what he's done with his 3-point shooting has changed the game of basketball, without a doubt. He's all the young kids now, they want to be Steph Curry. And it's opened the floor. It's, with the way he's done it is amazing, because not only with the 3-point shooting, his basketball IQ is off the chart. Yeah, and that's what most people don't realize. His understanding of movement and process and spacing is just off the charts. And he never stops moving without the ball. And he's going to get the shot that he wants any and every time. You can't stop Steph. He's special, truly special. Besides, he's a Warriors. I played for the Warriors.
Unbelievable, yeah. Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Giannis, one of my favorite players that's in the league today, because the way he plays the game, every second that he's on the floor, and when he comes down that lane like a locomotive going to the basket, there's no way you're going to stop him from getting to the basket. He's just such a great all-around talent, and he's got the 3-point shot now. He's just phenomenal. Love watching him play.
There are times when you see the game, and I talk about that.
Yeah.
When I talk about Steph Curry, I said the fact that he is one of the few guys that has changed the game from what you and I knew. During the 80s, the 3-point shot was fool's gold. Nobody really shot no threes. There was we could think of Trent Tucker, a couple of guys like that, maybe Larry Bird, but not a lot of guys even shot it. And then all of a sudden, Steph Curry comes along. I would have never imagined a game where we're shooting more 3-pointers, attempting more threes than you did twos. That is just crazy to me.
No, you're absolutely right. And consequently, the centers have disappeared. You don't have the low block anymore being utilized in the low post. And so it's changed the game tremendously. You don't see the development of set plays any longer. You got the high pick and roll, and the guys are going to spot up in the right-hand side of the corner and the left-hand side of the corner for the ball to be swung. And if you do get in low post, you toss it out. And that's what amazes me. Guys get the ball right underneath the basket. You toss it out to the corner. Why don't you just take the layup? That's still 2 points.
You hit it on the head on the nail. I'm like, man, every time I get one of our 7-footers around the rim, he's throwing the ball out to the corner. Yeah. Like last night was a prime example. I think Luke got it because you had Porzingis sick. He didn't play. But he got the ball under the basket, and he turns and he throws it. I'm like, All you need is 2 right now. You don't need.
Yeah, you don't even get through.
It just drove me crazy when I think about what happened and how this game has really changed. How would you have changed your game in today's NBA?
Changed my game at all.
Okay.
I would only have extended my game. I was the low post player, was open floor player. I was a jump shooter, but I would just extend my game to the 3-point line. And when I came into the league, I didn't have a jump shot.
Yeah.
I couldn't shoot beyond 15 feet. It's each season I added to my game. Every summer I added a new element. And so I would have added that element to my game. And so I wouldn't have changed my game at all. By the way,
wow.
I had a system, Max.
Mm-hmm.
I had 9 spots on the left, 9 spots on the right, 4 spots from the front of the rim to the top of the key, constituting 22 spots. And that's where I'm going to get my shots from. On the left-hand wing or the right-hand wing, there's only 5 ways you can be defended by a single defender. You're going to send me right because you think my right hand is weak. You're going to send me left because you think my left hand is weak. You're going to give me the jump shot because I'm a poor jump shooter, or you're going to overplay me, or you're going to play me tight. Those are the only 5 different ways you can defend me as a single defender. And I'm going to have...
Hold on. The circle defense. Hold on. Put the circle defense.
That's slow post. We're talking about the wing now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to have 5 counters to the 5 different ways you're going to defend me. And then I'm going to go to one of my 9 spots and take my shot. And I shoot over my career-wise 54%. So you're not going to stop me because you don't even know where I'm going. That's the way I played the game. Then I had a different set in the open floor and then a different set for the low post. I was a very analytical player. That's how I played the game.
And, I didn't know, that's the thing that was really cool for me to finally get to know you.
Yeah.
And to see how analytical you were, because you don't realize those kind of things when you're playing from a guy from afar, because during the 80s, ladies and gentlemen, we didn't speak to each other. We didn't talk to each other. We weren't calling nobody up. We weren't trying to do all these things. That was just a no in the NBA. And now you have, can you imagine Bernard King changing jerseys with somebody?
No.
Or
Bird and I, it's funny because played against you for 10 years. No, more than that, actually, 12 years. And played against Bird for 10. Bird and I never once said a word to one another on the court. Ever. Never. In the entire 10-year period that we played against each other. But here's something you don't know, Max. So after I come back from my injury, I came back for 6 games. I averaged 22 points a game. I established that I can still play and I'm healthy. So now I'm a free agent and I hire Bob Wolf, in Boston.
Yeah.
I'm to be Larry Bird's attorney, right? But he was the best that there was.
Yeah.
And some you don't know. I got a call from Bob and he said, Bernard, the Celtics are interested in signing you. You didn't know that. Yeah.
I did not know that.
That's exactly. Yes. And so I get on the plane. I fly to Boston. I can't believe I'm going to Boston, right? So I get on the plane. I fly to Boston. And I meet with singularly, after I left my attorney's office, with Red Auerbach, Casey Jones, and Alan Cohn. And that's right. And Red is sitting there smoking a cigar. And he says to me, Bernard, why do you want to play for the Celtics? We have a pretty good small forward here. Alluding to Bird without saying his name.
Yeah.
And I said, I want to win the championship. That was the end of the meeting. By the time I got back to Bob Wolf's office, they made an offer. You guys made an offer.
Wow.
And I knew I would not have been there in that office with those guys if Bird didn't give his blessing.
Wow.
Right?
That is so cool.
And in the interim, while I was meeting with the Celtics, the Washington Bullets called, and they were interested in signing me. So I didn't say yes. I got on a plane and flew to Washington because they wanted to see me work out. Had a pair of sneakers shipped there, and I worked out for them. And the offer was double what Boston offered. So I had to take it. It was a different era then. We didn't make the kind of money the guys are making today.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget this, Max. The first game of that season, we played the Celtics. And Bird, remember, we never talked in 10 years. Bird walked by me, and he said, "You cost me a championship."
Damn. That's the first word he ever spoke to you?
Yeah, that's what he said to me. And, here's the thing about it. We're competitors. That's why you played the way you did, and that's how you got to the NBA, and that's why you played for so many years you did. And when you're a competitor, you go into a team or any team you play for that you're going to start. I wasn't going to Boston to back up Bird. Okay. I wanted you to come there for, but my mindset was not that. And it wouldn't have been that had I gone to Boston.
I know I'm jumping around, and I like to jump around in my podcast. But one of the things I want to ask you, and I see LeBron James and LeBron James' son. Yeah. People might not remember this, but you had a brother that was a great player also.
Yeah.
How did you guys compete on a daily basis, and how was that with you guys going with each other?
Do you have a younger brother that's at least 3 years younger than yourself?
Yeah, he's 5 years younger.
5 years. Did you guys hang out together?
No.
Okay. So I'm not gonna hang out with Albert. I always play against the older guys. That's how you improve your skill sets, right? So I'm not gonna play against my younger brother. He doesn't have the talent I have, at that time at least. And so no, we grew up distinctly different. Although we're in the same household, because he was much younger. I went away to college at 17, and he was in the ninth grade when I went away to college. And now I'm a freshman, so our lives are quite different until we become adults. But he was tremendous player. But here's the thing about it: I would not speak to him on the court.
Wait a minute. Hold up. You wouldn't speak to your own brother?
No.
What the hell are you talking about?
No.
That's your brother.
In between the lines, you don't matter to me. In between those lines, you don't matter to me. So at the jump ball circle, I wouldn't speak to him. I shake his hand, and that's it.
Well, and look at this. At least he got a handshake. I didn't even get a damn handshake.
No, but he was a tremendous player with the Nets. And here's the thing you probably don't know. My first year with the Knicks, he was the starting small forward for the Nets.
Yes.
And we had to face each other in the playoffs in the first round.
Wow.
Brother to brother. My parents in the stands, my mother and father, sitting there and watching that because they attended every game. And so this is when it matters, the playoffs, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry, I had to deliver. First game, I dropped 40 on them.
Then your mom said, did your mom ever look at you going, Bernard, that's my baby boy right there. You cannot destroy his confidence.
There was a point in the first game when second game, he inadvertently poked me in my eye. And I fell to the floor. I'm clutching the ball, and I see it later on the video. He's doing this dance over me. Oh no, what did I do?
That is absolutely crazy when you think about it.
It is.
And in just touching different things. How did you feel about LeBron James and his son Bronny, and how that happened? Because this is as complicated. Every time I talk to another pro, I want to ask their opinion. How would you handle that? Or how did it look? Or what did you see?
From the outside, looking in, I can understand how, everyone would think that he had no place on that team, that he didn't necessarily have the talent to be part of the Lake organization. But, as I have a daughter. She's never played basketball. But I know that as a parent, I would do anything for my daughter.
Yeah.
And if my son had aspirations to play in the NBA, and, obviously he had the heart condition at one point, and he was able to overcome that, and that affected his senior year, I would have done the same thing. If I can give my child a career in the NBA, then I'm going to do that.
Well, the thing that again,
Remember something also. Sorry for interrupting you.
uh-huh.
Giannis averaged 6 points a game as a rookie.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
Remember, Scottie Pippen averaged 5 points a game as a rookie.
Wow. Okay.
So you never know.
Yeah, that really is true when you think about all the nuances of the game and okay, here's the thing. Okay,
What do you think about it? What is your opinion?
I'm kind of mixed because I love LeBron. I'm like you. I'm a big LeBron fan.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't think he could ever be right with this situation because people are always going to view him as that father who got his son in the NBA.
Yeah.
And he wasn't supposed to be there. But I'm like you. I have sons too. I would do anything for them.
How many sons do you have?
I have 2 sons. Okay. But I would look at that and say that was so tough because he's always going to have this ultimate scrutiny, which is not like anybody else I know. When it comes to, it's like Jordan. You saw Jordan play. You played against Jordan. Your feel about how Michael Jordan was. Because you had to battle Jordan. You're one of the best small forwards I've ever seen play. Yeah, when you played Jordan, how was that?
You got to ask Jordan how was it to play against me.
Damn, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about right there. Because I said
I remember the first game we ever played Jordan, and I know he wanted to come into New York on the biggest stage in the world.
Let me ask you before you go on: did you shake his damn hand?
Yeah, you're the only guy whose hand I didn't shake. I shook everyone's hand except yours.
Okay, go on. Tell me the story now.
Kevin Lockery, my former coach, my rookie year, he was coaching at the time Jordan his rookie season, and he came in, and I hadn't really seen him play in college. I saw the championship game when he performed, but he was restricted offensively, in that system. He put on a show. Here's what I thought going into that game. Not in my house.
Mm.
You're not going to come here in my house. Madison Square Garden is my house and embarrass me in my house. But he embarrassed me anyway. And there was nothing I could do about it. He had the jump shot. You put the ball on the floor. He ran the floor so effectively. Had great passing skills. Obviously, flying through the air as well. It was just a great, great player.
I always touch before, and dude, I am so thankful you be on with me. But I want to ask you this question because I ask a lot of people.
Yes.
If I'm building a Mount Rushmore in your backyard, and you can get any athlete, you could be basketball, football, whatever, but 4 people that you're going to put in the back of your house on your Mount Rushmore, who would those people be?
It's a very good question.
Okay.
If it was outside of sports, I would say Sidney Poitier.
Wow.
That's
Okay.
My hero.
While you're touching that, did you ever meet Sidney?
Yeah, I did. And, I grew up wanting to talk like Sidney, to dress like Sidney. And the greatest compliment you could give me as a kid, you sound like Sidney Poitier. I was in the projects, okay? Everyone talks slang and F you this and F you that. And I'm reading books. I'm reading psychology books at night underneath the covers with a flashlight. My mother would catch me at night reading the psychology books. I'm trying to learn and understand myself in this world. And Sidney is someone I looked up to. And after my rookie year, I was called in to audition for a movie. I averaged 24 points a game, 9.5 rebounds my rookie year. And I was called in that by an agent, said they're casting for a movie, and your name was mentioned to them. They would like to see you. I said, sure. So I go in for a reading. I think I'm going to be the only person there. I'll lead up to that very quickly. but I think I'm going to be the only person there. I walk in, there's like 300 people in the hallway. And I'm like, what the heck?
You thought you were special.
Yeah, right.
They want me. They want me. No.
So I go in, and Lynn Stallmaster, who's the gentleman who was casting the movie, he said, I saw you once doing an interview when you were in college, and I never forgot the interview. And he said, that's why I called you in for casting for a potential part of my movie. And it was a character called Hustler, and then one called Preacher. And so I read for both. And then they said, hey, take the half of the script home for Hustler, and we want you to learn it overnight and come back tomorrow and read it with another actor. I did that, got the part. Can't believe it. I got the part. I had the third largest part in the movie called Fast Break with Gabe Kaplan, if you remember Gabe from Welcome Back Home. And it was his first movie. And I fly to Los Angeles. They had asked me, could you fly to Los Angeles and spend 2 months if we called you in the next few days? I said, yes. And it was amazing. So I go out there, Mike Warren, who played for UCLA.
Yeah.
With Kareem, by the way. He was his starting point guard. He took me to a country club during the period we were shooting. And who's walking toward us? Sidney Poitier. My mouth was like, I had never in my life been in awe of anyone. I'm like, and I'm standing there next to Mike, and I can't even speak. Hello, Mr. Poitier. I mean, this is my idol, He's larger than life. It was so beautiful, and I'll never forget it. I kicked myself for not being able to speak to him now.
Well, I think we're just stunned sometimes. Now, I'll give you my Mount Rushmore, and this is how mine.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Then let me answer your question.
I'll give my Mount Rushmore. I had mine is Muhammad Ali.
Yes.
Bill Russell.
Yes.
Willie Mays.
No,
take out Willie Mays. Didn't have Willie Mays. I had Tiger Woods, and then I had the greatest female athlete of all time. I had Serena Williams. Those were my 4 people.
That's a Mount Rushmore there.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. I spent time with Bill Russell.
Okay.
I'll give you my Mount Rushmore in a moment, just to very quickly tell you. When I was injured, I got a call to audition for Miami Vice. Biggest show on TV at the time.
Damn, man, what the hell were you doing? Okay. All right, Mr. New Yorker. Damn.
This is all
the rest of us were. I see you right now. This is how it was. The rest of us were playing damn checkers, and you were playing chess. I get it now. I understand why you were.
The benefits of being in New York. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I go in for the audition, and I get the part. And so I'm going to play Bill Russell's son on Miami Vice. And so I had to fly to Miami, and we're going to film for 2 weeks. And I'm playing his son in Miami Vice. And every day after the shooting, Bill and I would go to dinner.
Wow.
Every single day for 2 straight weeks.
Wow.
And it was so amazing to be in his presence and to have an opportunity to talk to him and to hear his stories. But the first time we went out to dinner, the first day, we went to a place called Joe's Crab Shack.
Yeah.
And the best crabs in all of Florida. Mm-hmm. And there's a huge line down the block. And so Russ and I, we walk up and we're standing there. I'm thinking to myself, this is Bill Russell. Why are we standing in line? I said, excuse me, Bill, I'll be back in a moment. I went inside. I said, excuse me, who's the manager? Can I speak to the manager? My name's so-and-so. We have Bill Russell outside. He's standing in line, sir. He should not be standing in line. He said, go get him. Come on, bring him in. And so we went in and we ate, but it was just so beautiful to spend the time with him. And every time I saw him thereafter, he played a corrupt judge. I played his college son. And every time I saw him thereafter, I would say, how you doing, Dad? And we would hug each other, so beautiful. In terms of my Mount Rushmore, I would have to say Muhammad Ali.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to say Kareem. as well. I would have to say Sidney Poitier as part of that. I would have to say Romar Bearden, who is one of the greatest American artists that's ever existed in this world, who happens to be black. He's in all the major museums of the world. His work sell for multi-millions of dollars, and I love art. And he and I became very friendly, and I value that relationship.
When the hell did you become this? I mean, this scholarly. All I remember was the scowl that you used to have when I never knew, because again, you say you never spoke, never said the word to me, never said anything to any of my teammates, nothing like that. Ain't nobody ever, man, you talked to, no, ain't nobody ever say ML. Nope, nobody ever talked to you. But all of a sudden I found out that
And last Martin Luther,
I knew nothing about.
and last Martin Luther King.
Wow.
But he's not last.
Now, before I let you go, I got to ask you about, because I love this conversation. I got to ask you about that. I got to ask you about the great Kobe Bryant. What you thought of him as a player, because he reminds me of you in the fact that Mamba mentality. You're not gonna beat me. You're not gonna outwork me. You just told me this story about you coming back from surgery, not being outworked. How can you fit those two people together? You and Kobe.
Oh, I was not at his talent level. That's number one.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people in the NBA that I knew would beg the difference in what you're talking about now. That's not even.
It's very
again. I can talk to some of my colleagues, people I played with, and they're going, Bernard King was a bitch. That's all. That's all they say. And it was the biggest compliment we could give you.
I didn't use that word. You did.
I did. We all used that word. Everybody. We weren't as scholarly, so we had some choice words that we were using about a certain guy. That's why I got myself in trouble by talking about you the first time you were going to score on me. Yeah.
Hey, by the way, very quickly, I'm going to ask you a question about Kobe, but you said you got yourself in trouble. Do you know after that year when you beat us, I went over to Italy on behalf of the NBA. They asked me to go over and do a camp for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Who was the other person that was part of the team? Myself and Casey Jones.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is after you guys won the championship and beat us. And so the two of us, we're in Italy, in South Maggiore, Italy, for 2 weeks doing a camp with 500 young Italian kids every day.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it was so beautiful to spend that 2-week period with him. And, I remember us sitting by the pool, and he said, Bernard, is this some life or what?
Dude, it is absolutely. I appreciate you. I've had you on.
Last thing, but come back to Kobe just very quickly. Obviously, we all were devastated, when we learned what happened. But he was so in tune with the love of the game.
Yeah.
With the love of the game. And whatever he had to do to become the best to ever play the game, he was going to do. And he was masterful. I remember sitting in my family room at home with my daughter one day, and the Lakers about to play the Knicks with Kobe. And I could see it through the TV. And I saw his eyes, Max. I saw his eyes. And I turned to my daughter. And I said to my daughter, Amina, I said, Dadham's record is toast today. True story. Dadham's record is toast today. I saw it in his eyes. And he went out and broke my record.
Wow.
60 points.
That is absolutely crazy.
Yeah,
but dude, I'm not gonna hold you anymore. I
enjoyed this.
You have just absolutely been a thrill to have on. I know we're gonna touch base again, and I'm gonna hate. This is the thing I'm gonna hate when we come to New York.
Are you gonna be in New York?
Yeah, I'll be there because that alumni section y'all have down there. tell John Starks to get off the damn floor. He's no longer a player, okay? I mean, this dude's on the floor. I mean,
Melo's going to be there.
You look like you have so much fun with the guys you have over there. And, Patrick Ewing was here in the building last night.
Yeah, I know.
It was just, it's pretty special. And I think about, the family unit that you guys have, the camaraderie of the old school and the new school. You guys do a great job in New York.
The organization, they brought 40 guys back this season. 40 guys at one time for 2 days, and we had dinner, and you just had a great time socially and then attending the games, and they make sure they keep everyone involved. And that's the way it should be.
Wow, that is absolutely great, man. But again, man, I wanted to thank you.
Thank you.
And all the Boston fans, don't hate me because, I'm talking to this brother now. Look, we can talk now. We can be friendly now because we're no longer players. But back then, I could not stand this guy.
I didn't like you,
I could not stand this. I didn't lose sleep. I didn't think about it. The only time I've ever felt bad for you is when you got hurt. But when I saw the work that you did to come back, that to me was amazing. And it was a testament to the player and to the person you were.
Well,
so again, thank you, man, very much for coming on with us.
Look forward to seeing you in New York. And we're going to win the second game.
Man, it ain't going to happen, brother. It ain't going to happen. We'll talk to you later. Have a good one.